Charles Manson was Albert Einstein's daughter. So where does my self-declared official deceased nemesis Charles Manson come into it? I will not flow with the fake history books here. There were 3 cousins. Kaiser Adolf's cousin was his predecessor Kaiser Wilhelm II, and they both had an ineligible cousin who was fake physicist Albert Einstein. Einstein was one of the most heinously evil people in the history of the world. Einstein had a particularly evil bent towards royalty, particularly my Hohenzollern royal family constitutional monarchy of Germany, as he was both Kaiser Adolf and his predecessor cousin Kaiser Wilhelm II's cousin, but ineligible, and the only one who was not homosexual of the 3. By the time then Prince Imperial Adolf Hitler the Hohenzollern was elected to parliament and had become Chancellor of Germany in 1933, Einstein was probably the full-on most evil person going around, and had been for decades, with thousands of victims on his list. Most of the victims selected to be tortured to supply noted-down ideas so he could release them in book form, to fake himself being a world-famous physicist and philosopher intellectual, and tour the world with the stolen ideas on his Switzerland passport. Einstein became so well-known that all he had to do was invite other well-known people who were really scientists, intellectuals, teachers, students, royalty, etc. to private dinners and lectures to source more victims. He occasionally replaced the victims with pre-organized lookalikes, which nearly always caused havoc for a short period, before a gruesome end to the imposters. The mind-numbingly large list of relatives of mine he tortured and murdered is massive and very distressing. Basically, Einstein could have abducted, tortured, replaced where applicable, disabled, and murdered any notable person or students he was seen in photographs at a private function with, to source more material. The evil one, Einstein, had organized to go on a tour of the United States of America in 1934, pretending to be a world-famous physicist, with new material stolen off his torture and murder victims. To coincide with the tour after it had started, almost as subliminal marketing for the rest of the itinerary that few people would understand, one of his victims was pronounced dead to the public with the date of death being the 4th of July. Marie Curie. After Einstein arrived in the USA, he met a young teenage girl from New Zealand whose part Hungarian parents were on holidays there. New Zealand had a little colony of part Hungarians. I have made an educated guess that her real name was Isabelle Williams or something similar, which explains Einstein had New Zealanders, amongst others, obsession with the name. He got her alone, introduced her to alcohol and illicit drugs, had sex with her, illegally due to her age, and got her pregnant. Einstein had several serious complaints made about him with authorities whilst in the USA, concerning his social interactions with teenage females and public behavior whilst the tour was in progress. Several incidents were hushed under the rug, so to speak, so as not to interfere with his tour. There were a few complaints about him appearing to drop his pants and expose his penis to female students during what were supposed to be physics lectures in official lecture theaters. Also, complaints of suspected sexual acts with females under 16 and follow-up harassment. Even a public media mention of an incident or two. Suffice to say that any photograph of him with his tongue sticking out, which usually came with a vile smell, was his way of advertising his illegal fake preference for teenage females. And to impersonate a map of Italy in some people's opinion, due the number of Italians who volunteered to abduct and victimize intellectuals for him. In the ensuing years he regularly spent time with the female in question, eventually finding out that she was teased a lot from teenage years and called fried egg tits repeatedly as a reference to her very small breasts, combined with a frizzy as a reference to her hair. Like a reverse counselor, from the described frizzy fried egg tits, he ended up talking her into pretending to be a man called Fritz. Einstein used the nickname Frizzy, made it masculine, and added a signature T in to remind people of his surname. And it sounded like tits. She was soon on the Fritz for life. The female then began dressing the part, as if a way to prepare for vengeance towards people responsible for the teasing, based on Einstein's advice, the person who illegally had sex with her when she was a teenager that resulted in her getting pregnant. The New Zealand female Einstein got pregnant, soon to be known publicly as Fritz, gave birth to a female child that Einstein was the father of on the 12th of November, 1934 in the United States of America, when she was 15. By the time the child had reached high school, it was pretending to be a man, and had adopted the name Charles Manson. Its mother, Isabelle Williams, Fritz, was already dead by the time Manson reached high school. She was found dead in a bunker in Berlin in 1945, when Manson was 10 years old, made over by a film production crew to look like Kaiser and Chancellor Adolf Hitler the Hohenzollern, next to the body of a female prostitute called Janet Podolski pretending to be Eva Braun. Fritz was around half Kaiser Adolf's age, had clothing similar to Hitler's on, imperial monogram armbands, copyright me now on, was wearing female underwear and shoes, and was clearly menstruating at the time of her death, as she had a sanitary napkin in her underwear. Her hair was dyed the wrong color, black, and had white roots. She was 8 centimeters too short to be Kaiser Adolf, with blue eyes. Obviously not him. She had been made look like Adolf by the professional film production crew, after using her impersonation of his voice to lure millions to their mass genocide deaths starting December 1943. It's a putrid detail, but, after the bunker was discovered, it was correctly assumed there was an incident where the female pretending to be Kaiser Adolf had shot 3 look-alike females to death, and was then shot afterwards, falling on top of one with identity documents on her body saying she was Janet Podolski and her neo-Nazi acting job identity name was Eva Braun. The people who assessed the situation from various military assumed she had shot one, then chased the other 2 down and shot them, before returning to the body of Eva Braun and being shot dead there. Some people analyzing the situation even theorized that the rampage may have been caused by her menstruation cycle causing her to go psycho, which included checking the sanitary napkin in response to the smell by pushing it like a foot pump to see if it was freshly moist, which caused a loud squishing noise. Around 6 hours later, they had propped up a photo of the real adorable Kaiser Adolf Hitler the Hohenzollern near the New Zealander's body and were posing for the film cameras saying, "Oh wow, the film production crew job on this woman is amazing. Look how much she looks like Adolf Hitler," at the cameras, with overly demented and exaggerated looks of jaw too wide surprise or on their faces. A large percentage of them females pretending to be male military. There's footage on YouTube if you can stomach it. That jaw so wide it looks almost dislocated, fake surprise for the camera look. Suffice to say Einstein chose to pretend to be a physicist so his name would be an anagram of Antichrist. The rest had letters that spelt teen and penis if you understand lunatics.